So first we're going to be talking about the skeleton, because this is the main, this is the skeleton upon which we're going to put all of the meat. So first we can see that the skeleton consists of a rib cage. So we're just going to enumerate the bones that participate in the thorax. Here we can see we have 2 clavicles. Okay? And we also have a sternum. After this, we have, as part of the sternum, we see that the sternum has a manubrium, the body of the sternum, and the xiphoesternum, or the xiphoid process. And besides this, we have 12 pairs of ribs on each side. So, as if you can look closely, each of the ribs has a cartilaginous part and a bony part. So this white part over here is the cartilaginous part. And this off-white part is the bony part of the rib. If you can look closely, we are going to start counting the ribs. So one thing that we will discuss about this later as well, and I will remind you about this. And it's very important when we are counting the ribs on the human body. We usually count starting from rib number 2. So first, we're going to look at this in our next presentation on surface anatomy. The first thing that we want to look at is we want to feel the manubriosternal joint. This is also called the sternal angle. First, we'll look at the jugular notch. It's easily seen on the human body. And then you go a little further down, about 5 centimeters, and you'll feel the manubriosternal joint. This is also called the sternal angle. Right beside the sternal angle, we have rib number 2. If you go up a little bit, you'll feel rib number 1. So now let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then you can see this one over here. This is 11. And this one over here, this is 12. Okay? Sometimes we may have extra numerary ribs up here or down here. These are called cervical ribs, and these are called lumbar ribs. Besides this, we have 12 thoracic vertebrae with demifacets and transverse processes on both sides. So let's take a look at that. Okay, so we were talking about the thoracic vertebrae. As you can see, this is the first rib, and this is the second. So we're going to count this as the first thoracic vertebra. Okay? Another important feature that I want you to notice is the spinous processes. If you look closely, these are more pointed. And this one here is not pointed. It's more prominent. This is a feature of the cervical vertebrae. And this pointed spinous process is a feature of the thoracic vertebrae. So this is also one of those important points that when we will be discussing surface anatomy, the first thing that you start counting from this, you know that this is 0. And then you'll know this is thoracic vertebrae 1, 2, 3, and that's how you start counting. So let's start counting now. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. All right. We can see that each thoracic vertebrae has these transverse processes. And as I already told you, it has a demifacet. So we'll see that in the next image. So between each of these vertebrae, we have a cartilaginous disc. This is called the intervertebral disc. So we'll have 12 intervertebral discs. And what else do we have as part of the thorax? These are called scapulae. So scapula for singular. And although it's not really directly part of the thorax, it's mostly understood as part of the upper limb or as part of the shoulder girdle. But when we talk about the thorax, because the surface anatomy revolves around, the surface anatomy contains, the scapulae as a surface marker. We have this vertical line passing through the inferior angles of the scapula that is parallel to the midvertebral line, and this is called the scapular line. So we'll be learning about this a little bit in more detail, but this is just for your general knowledge, why we consider the scapula as being part of the thorax. Okay, so here we have a picture of the thoracic vertebrae and the rib articulating with it. So the important things that we need to see here is that each thoracic vertebra contains these things called demifacets. So this is a demifacet here, and this one too. So each rib, as you can see, articulates with the thoracic vertebrae with the inferior demifacet of the superior thoracic vertebra and the superior demifacet of the inferior thoracic vertebra. We also have something called a transverse process and a spinous process. So also we have in the skeletal structure these intervertebral discs. Okay, let's move on.